All right, welcome to Math 3 Term 1, Structure and Notation of Expressions. So in this lesson, we are going to redefine some things that we learned in Math 1 and Math 2. So first, we're going to remind ourselves of some basic vocabulary. So this is a polynomial. Poly just means many. A monomial is a polynomial with one term. A bicycle has two wheels. So a binomial is a polynomial with two terms. Trinomial, a tricycle, is a bike with three wheels. So a trinomial is a polynomial with three terms. So in this example here, each of these things that is a grouping of either numbers and variables or whatever, that's called a term. So this polynomial here actually has 1, 2, 3 terms. And just a reminder, terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So this has 3 terms, and the number in front of each term, or the number in front of the variable, multiplying the variable, is called the coefficient. The number in front of the variable or letter, the number multiplying. So if I were to say, what is the coefficient of the first term? You would say 4. If I said, what's the coefficient of the second term? You would say -3. If I said, what is the coefficient of the third term? You would say 2. If I said, what is the constant coefficient? The constant coefficient is the coefficient without a variable. The reason it's called constant is it's constantly going to be that number. There's no variable that can change into a number to multiply it and make it something different. So, for example, if x were equal to 5, this term would actually equal 10, right? That number would change, 5. 5 times 3 is 15. That would change to 15, right? That 3 would change. But this is constantly 2 because there's no variable that could potentially change it, right? So it's constantly 2. So that's why the constant coefficient would be 2. Usually in polynomials, they're in descending order from highest exponent to smallest exponent. That is the proper way. That's called standard form. That's not always the case, but that's usually how they're written. So the first part of the lesson or the quiz is going to be asking you for number of terms, coefficients, and things like that. The second part is going to be asking you to define or match expressions with their name. So we just have to remind ourselves of some of these things. So an exponential expression, exponential has x in the exponent. So an exponential has x in the exponent. So when I look at this, see how that x is in the exponent here, 8 to the x power? So that would actually be exponential. Now a linear expression is a line, linear. So x has no exponent. I don't know why I'm writing it that way. X has no exponent. And when I mean no exponent, it actually means x has an exponent of 1. But the reason I say no exponent is because when you look at it, it's not going to have an exponent. So I see here that x has an exponent of 3, so that can't be linear. I see here x does have an exponent of 1, but this x is also in a denominator. So I'm going to add a little thing here, and not in denominator. Because if x is in the denominator, that is actually this next one called rational. So I'm going to look, this x is in the denominator, this x has no exponent or an exponent of 1. It's not in the denominator, that's linear. So now let's look at rational. This is the one where x is in denominator. It's a rational, it's creating a fraction situation. That's going to be that one right there. Now, in this example, there's nothing bigger than a quadratic. And a quadratic is another one I'm going to add here. A quadratic is where x has highest exponent of 2. Okay, so quadratic is probably the highest one you'll see. And if quadratic, you know, I don't see anything quadratic here, but if I see something bigger, x to the third, I'm just going to match that with polynomial, even though that's actually called a cubic. Cubic is where you have x to the exponent of 3. But polynomial just means many terms. So if I have one that doesn't match, polynomial could qualify for that. So let's move on into another example and match these up. So expression, so we did linear, we talked about exponential has x in the exponent. Quadratic is the one that I added, has an x highest degree of 2, so highest exponent of 2. And let's match some more. So in this one, the only one that we haven't talked about in this one is radical. And a radical is going to have that square root or that radical symbol. So I can already see that that one's radical. All right, linear. Remember the definition of linear. X has the highest exponent of 1, and it is not in a denominator. So I look at that first one. That one is linear. Let's look at, I'm going to skip polynomial because I like to say whatever one is left is polynomial. Exponential has x in the exponent. So I look at the two remaining. They both have exponents, but one of them has an exponent of x and one has an exponent of 5. Well, exponential means x is in the exponent, which means x to the 5th is going to be the polynomial. So I hope this helps with your quiz. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I hope you're having a great day. You guys are awesome.